in your experience as a car dealer, tell me about one funny story that stands out in your mind, like the funniest one that you can remember over the years.
Me as an owner, I like to help out my customers when I see people come in um, pissed off or whatever, and I like to intercept that and take it away from my sales team so that negative energy doesn't spread. So one time I grabbed the customer and said, oh, okay, let me help you out. And I take them outside and start explaining how I can help them out. And they stopped and said, I don't want you to help me. I want a manager to help me. So, well, Mr. Cut, I didn't explain who I was in the dealership. I just approached them as a regular employee. And they went on. I said, trust me, I'm going to be the one that will help you at the end. And they wouldn't have it. They wanted to talk to somebody else. So I sent them on their way inside. Go ahead and you can go inside and figure it out. So about 15 or 20 minutes later, the customer ends up on my desk.
Tell me a horror story that you remember.
A big horror story is it's still a continuing horror story. It was a deal where we were iffy on the deal. The customer was being somewhat shady. But we decided to do the deal. We had an approval, but we wanted to GPS the vehicle. So the customer, the salesperson, ends up putting the GPS in the wrong car. So 2-3 days later, we're pinging the car, and it's pinging in the parking lot. And we know the car is not in the parking lot. So till today, the car is missing. I would say it happened 2-3 days before Christmas of
2018?
2019.
2019. It's very recent.
Very recent. We try to take precautions now. What we do now is we actually hard GPS all 1 month recourse deals, and all deals we just don't have a gut feeling about. So installing a GPS, the GPS with installation runs you about $95. I think of it as an insurance plan. So $95 will guarantee your car back if anything goes wrong, which could be a $10,000 item or a $30,000 item, but it increases your chances of finding the vehicle.
I've heard that some of those illegal organizations have ways of removing those GPS trackers. Is that true?
Yes, they do. I did have a customer where I installed 2 GPSs on it, and the customer was somehow able to get them to not ping. They didn't completely remove them, but they messed with them. They tinkered with them somehow where they stopped pinging. It took us a while to find the vehicle. We did find it. I mean, a GPS unit is a very simple unit. People think of them as being more complex, but they're not complicated at all. Therefore, they're very easy to manipulate, or simply customer takes it off and puts it on a battery and throws it in a warehouse, and it will still ping. So it's just a matter of finding it. From our experience, if you check the credit bureau and you see addresses that are out of state, those are the ones that end up leaving the state again. So they have somewhere to go out of state. And in some cases, maybe they're here for a job and they just need a way to get back home with their stuff. So they'll pick up a car. Maybe we had a case where they did give us $2,000 down. They got a Nissan Sentra and drove it all the way back to Minnesota and just ditched it. To her, I guess she couldn't rent a vehicle or something, and it was just a way for her to get back home. But more or less, the credit bureau would have been the indication to see, well, this person's only been in California, or maybe they haven't been in California at all. If someone comes in from out of state, and if they don't have, let's say, a firm job line with a firm residence, we will not sell them a vehicle. So they will need to come in and show maybe they moved on. Maybe they're working at some company on the East Coast, and the East Coast company transferred them here, and they have a good same job line. They have housing provided. They can prove that they live at the residence. Then that would be a better sale, I would say. But without that, you don't know if they're going to keep their job. You don't know what might change in their lives that make them just pick stuff up and go home.
Can you tell us a horror story about an interaction with a vendor?
I do have one particular one that stands out. It was we were lifting trucks, putting wheels and tires on them, and we noticed a pattern of we'd put them on the front line and the truck would go missing at night, and the truck would end up somewhere else in town, like behind Sam's Club or behind Walmart, with the wheels missing. So it was someone obviously knew that the wheels didn't have locks on them. We figured out that it was a certain vendor we were taking the trucks to, and the truck would have 2 keys. So someone from his shop was splitting the keys, keeping the spare key, unlocking the car in the middle of the night, and taking off. He got away with doing 3 trucks before we figured it out. So they would come and just leave it on block somewhere in the, north side of town or wherever there was a warehouse. And the vendor obviously would, oh, well, I don't know, it's not my employees. I have good employees. And I called them out on it, telling them, hey, I don't run background checks on my employees. I didn't at the time. So I'm pretty sure you don't do background checks at your tire shop. You don't know who you can trust. So that's the conclusion. Even though you trust the vendor owner, or the shop owner, but you can't trust his employees. You don't know who they are. And some vendors have 30, 40 employees, and people do things in desperate measures. I stopped doing business with that vendor because he wouldn't go the extra mile to try to figure out who it was. So it wasn't good business for me.
How important is it for a vendor to go the extra mile?
Him going the extra mile shows how much he cares for our business and how much he values the relationship between us. A lot of vendor relationships are based on trust, because as an owner, I don't have the time to go there and check on his shop and make sure they're doing the right job. So I would say it's very important for them to go that extra mile and show us and guarantee us that they do have our best interest.